To start out, I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm kind of talking with a little bit of a lisp. I bit my tongue playing basketball last weekend, and I'm just now starting to get over it. So just bear with me, and we'll both get through this. Um, Talking about monstrosity in my paper, I'm very passionate about learning about World War II. I'm getting a minor in social sciences and hopefully wanting to teach eventually in the future, teach history specifically. And one thing that I really enjoy learning about and really think I will enjoy learning or teaching is World War II. And so when I got the opportunity to write about it, I jumped on it. And so I focused on Hitler and also the Holocaust and the monstrosities highlighted in those two things, and also um, compared it or kind of brought up some of the evils and monstrosity that is in America's closet. You know, one thing that I focused on was Hitler's propaganda machine and how he used propaganda in a way to push his agenda and push his beliefs onto the German people, which ultimately turned them against the Jews, and resulted in the Holocaust, the final solution of trying to get rid of the Jewish population in Europe. And propaganda played a big role in that. All of his speeches, all of the flyers that were hung around, all the videos were all kind of constructed to push his views onto the German people. And one thing that I found interesting was, even though America was the good guys and they were on the good side, they used some of these propaganda tactics to help them gain victory over the Germans and the Japanese. Some of the major players in that were people that we even know, like Dr. Seuss, Disney, and also Warner Brothers. Put out articles, videos, cartoon drawings of propaganda basically against the Japanese and the Germans. And some of the stuff that I saw was extremely racist and would not fly today, but it was very interesting to see America kind of stoop to this level and use it for quote unquote good so that they could defeat Hitler. And I talk about that in my paper, and I also talk about the Holocaust and the whole racial inspiration behind that. And I also talk, kind of compare it to and kind of bring in the idea of the Tulsa race riot that happened in the early 1900s in Oklahoma, and how, Hitler's Holocaust was fueled by this racial anger. And so I kind of talk about that in my paper with the Tulsa race riot, how it started out as a false accusation of an African American man. I think it was assaulted a woman in an elevator, and how it escalated into like a war zone in Tulsa and resulted in the obliteration of the African American community and the death of hundreds of people. Although that America's good and they're portrayed as good when they're fighting the Germans, we also have things that would be considered monstrous in our past and in our recent past, all the way up into the civil rights movement and even more recent than that. And so I kind of bring some of that to light in my paper when discussing monstrosity. And I guess in conclusion, one of the main things that I focus on is, even though a monster dies like Hitler or the monstrosity that he commits and that he idealizes still lives on in a lot of these acts that we committed in Tulsa and also later into the civil rights